Hey everybody, welcome back to Carnivore Quest. My name is Cassie. It's recipe time. We are gonna make a layered dessert. One thing I love about this lifestyle is recreating recipes to fit my lifestyle. Now, there were times when I would eat all the cheesecake and all the regular cake, cookies, brownies, you name it. Well, we can't exactly have those kinds of things, or really we can, but there's gonna be consequences with that. So with this recipe, it is definitely as low carb as one can get. Now, it's not zero carb. As you can see, there's cream cheese. We're gonna be using mascarpone, or how do you pronounce it? Mascarpone? It's entirely up to you how you wanna pronounce that word. I don't care. I call it delicious. This stuff is like a mixture between cream and butter. So really, I guess I don't need it because I have all the butter and I have all the cream cheese here. If cream cheese and butter had a baby, this is what you're gonna get. This stuff is very buttery. It's like butter 2.0. Now, with the ingredients list, you can omit some things, you can change it around to your flavor profile. That's one thing I love about it. Make it your own. But there are some things that absolutely cannot be compromised on. And one of those is cream cheese. Another is the mascarpone. Vanilla. When it comes to baking, vanilla cannot be compromised. You can try it, but for whatever reason, just that very small amount that you use makes everything that much better. We've got eggs. I've got some pork rinds here. This stuff. Now, that's not chocolate. This is instant coffee. Also, we'll be using some chocolate caramel element. It pairs so lovely with the coffee flavor that's gonna be in this. Use it, don't use it. Again, it's entirely up to you what flavors you want to create. And this is another optional ingredient. I like the allulose. It doesn't interfere with my blood glucose. Honestly, it's the holidays and this is the worst I'm gonna do. I am not concerned with a little allulose. Other dessert recipes that I've made have not contained any sweetener, but this year I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. And I really like the flavor that allulose lends. So this video is your tutorial how to make this layered dessert. The ingredients and amounts will be in the description, but the step-by-step instructions will be in the video. So let's get to baking. Real quick, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, LMNT. I want to start off by saying I absolutely love this product. I've used LMNT electrolytes, both the raw unflavored and the flavored versions, every day for the past 2 years. And I've lost a ton of weight on my carnivore diet journey back to better health. Each packet contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Everything you need to stay hydrated on your low carb diet. And in case you haven't heard, LMNT's chocolate medley is now available. Every box contains 10 packs each of chocolate mint, chocolate chai, and chocolate raspberry. These are absolutely delicious. They're meant to be enjoyed hot, and they're only available for a limited time. As always, LMNT's offering our viewers a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 free single serving packets with any LMNT order. So check out our link below at drinklmnt.com/carnivore quest to get yours today. And LMNT has the best customer service around. If for any reason you're not 100% satisfied, keep the product and receive a full refund. Thanks again, LMNT, for sponsoring today's video. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is just have our cream cheese. We're going to add cream cheese to this bowl. So we're using one bowl for our egg whites, and the other bowl will contain our egg yolks. In order to get our egg whites to stiffen up, we don't want any yolk in it, and I've learned that the hard way. So I'm going to very carefully attempt to separate the two. One. So far, so good. One more. Okay. Egg whites, egg yolks. All right, now I'm just gonna add maybe half a teaspoon of the vanilla extract in with the yolks. Now I'm gonna need a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now let's beat our egg whites until they turn into stiff peaks. And with help of the cream of tartar that is going to achieve this, it's actually going to help it hold its form. Here we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now we're going to mix the yolks, the cream cheese, and our vanilla together. Okay. Now we're just going to fold the egg yolk in with the egg whites. You want to be pretty gentle about this. We just want to make sure that the egg whites hold their form. So I do this in about thirds. Just a nice gentle fold. You don't want to be too rough with this. This is very gentle. Just be gentle. So this method is pretty much the same thing as your cloud bread. If you've never made that before, I highly recommend trying it. I've made it a handful of occasions and it turns out amazing. It's just light and airy, and depending on what additives you put in it, I've done garlic butter, and oh my gosh, that's probably my favorite. Herbs, garlic butter, cloud biscuits. Okay, now we add our last third, and we're just going to continue to fold. Just fold until everything is well incorporated. I probably could have quartered this recipe. It's going to be a thick layer. Okay, that's all right. The worst thing in the world is I've got a little leftovers and I'll eat it. So let's just gently pour it into the parchment paper. Yeah, I definitely made too much batter. A quarter would have been better. My vision for this was a little bit different. Just so y'all know, I'm kind of making this up as I go. I already had the idea of what I wanted. I'm going to place this in a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes, and we'll take it from there. But I will check it after about 18 just to see where I'm at. Okay, let's pull this out. All right, layer number one is complete. Just going to pull it out of the pan and let it cool. For our next step, I have about 1.75 cups of crushed pork rinds. I crushed it myself. The biggest problem with crushing pork rinds yourself is you have to do it in small batches and spend a good amount of time removing any pieces that could potentially hurt you. I mean, there are still some chunks in there that just won't grind up. And some of them are pretty hard. I could easily see somebody taking a bite and breaking a tooth. That is something that always worries me. But there are several companies out there that makes pork panko, and you could just buy it. I've got about 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and you can use more or less as we need it. You know, climate has a lot to do with it. If you live in a drier climate, you may need to use a little more. You know, it is raining today, so it's definitely going to affect how my crust turns out. I'm going to use the chocolate caramel element in this crust. I'll be using about half a pack of the element. When you do make this, you make it to your taste, to your liking. Now, I love the chocolate caramel and the coffee flavor. It just goes together so nicely. I could probably even use a little more. It's just there's already salt in the butter, there's salt in the pork rinds, and of course with the element. And I don't want to over salt it. I don't want it to be too salty. I'm gonna moisten up the pork rinds by adding some butter. Just gonna add a little at a time. I don't want to dump all of it in because maybe it's too much and then it's too loose, or it's not enough, and you can always add to it. You can't take away. So I'm just going to add little at a time, just to see where I'm at. I want it to be moist enough, but not too wet. I want it to be able to hold its form. This pork rind crust went over so well with my non-carnivore coworkers. They couldn't believe that's what it was. This is where we start to build our flavor. I've got pumpkin spice here. I've got a nice cinnamon. You can add a rum extract. Maple works really well, but I'm just gonna keep it pretty standard. Add a little vanilla to this. So about 1/4 teaspoon. Just to give it a little extra flavor. That's what you're looking for. You just want it to hold its shape, right? You don't want it too wet because it won't stick. And you don't want it too dry because it'll crumble. Either way, it's not gonna stick. It'll either fall apart or it'll just sit there like one gigantic glob. Now let's just press it down into the bottom of the pan. Try and get it pretty even. Now we are gonna pop this into the oven for a few minutes, about 10 minutes. I just want everything to set well together, that's all. So there's your crust. Now we're gonna pop this into a 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and work on our third layer, which is the cheesecake filling. Yes. This is the best part. I'm excited for this. I mean, it's all gonna come together beautifully, but that cheesecake filling is amazing. Okay. This is the main layer. For this, we need 8 ounces of cream cheese and 8 ounces of mascarpone. I have approximately 2 tablespoons of instant coffee granules. Just gonna add that to it. I'm gonna take the other half of the chocolate element and pour it in there. And of course, we need some vanilla. And I'm going to add about a teaspoon. Now I have 2 eggs for the filling, and I'm adding them one at a time. I wanna make sure that they're beaten very well into this mixture. So let's add 1 and let's get to beating. And the second egg. And by the time I'm done beating this, our crust will be ready to be filled. Now look, that's so smooth and creamy. And again, you don't have to use the element. You don't have to use any of this. You can just use the cream cheese and the eggs and the mascarpone. It's really up to you. Okay, our crust is done. Now we're gonna fill it and pop it back into the oven. Now that we have our crust all ready to go, we're just gonna fill the pan with this creamy mixture and pop it in the oven for about 25 minutes. Now, if you like, you can always use more coffee flavor. It's just a subtle flavor. I don't like to overdo it. I want all the flavors to come together. But you can add as little or as much as you like. So just gently even it out. You don't want to tear the crust. Into the oven it goes. So it's just a little bit jiggly. That's okay. That's exactly how we want it. We want it to be a little jiggly like that. It will set. And then after about maybe an hour or so, after it's cooled down a bit, we'll finish assembling it. And then we're going to go to town. Time for the last step. Now we're going to make the filling or the frosting, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. Again, we have to come up with a name for this dessert, so I'm going to leave it up to you. I have 4 ounces of cream cheese, a little more than 2 tablespoons of butter, a teaspoon of coffee grounds. Going to add some more vanilla, of course, about a teaspoon. In this pitcher, I have 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Oh yes. And lastly, I have 2 tablespoons of allulose. Now, this is something, give or take, it's entirely up to you whether you want to use it or not. You can skip this if you want. You can add some more element. It's entirely up to you. We are building the flavors that we want. Now, we're gonna beat it and then assemble it. Voila. That didn't take long at all. That was about 60 seconds, and maybe I should have used a deeper bowl. So this is a buttercream whip, I guess you could call it. Okay, now for the fun part. This is the last part. And I got heavy whipping cream and cream cheese all over me.
Hey, baby.
Okay, let's get to assembling. All right, we have our cooled cheesecake. So the very first thing we're going to do is spread this buttercream whip on top. And then we're gonna layer it with our cloud cake and spread it on top. And you wanna do this gingerly because it will rip. Same with the cheesecake portion of it. Now at this time, if you wanna put any other type of garnishment, say sprinkle it with some cinnamon or even some cocoa powder. Like a nice Dutch processed cocoa powder would work out well. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Now I want to see how pleased I am with how it tastes. When it comes to serving this, I would definitely keep it cold because that crust is going to loosen up once it starts to come to room temperature. Serve it cold. You could bring it out maybe 15, 20 minutes before serving, but I wouldn't let it go any more than that. Oh my goodness. Look at those layers. Wow. That's like if tiramisu and cheesecake had a baby. This is so good. My friends at work are gonna absolutely love this. You get the crunch with the crust and then the chocolate caramel that's in that crust, and oh my goodness. And then of course the coffee. The coffee flavor isn't overpowering. The chocolate caramel element complements it so nicely. Let me know if you're gonna make this for one of your holiday gatherings, and let me know what they thought about it. Because I know that anybody who is non-carnivore, non-keto, non-ketovore, they're really gonna like this. It's light and airy, even though it's cheesecake. And cheesecake is usually very heavy and dense. This is amazing. Until the next time, no sugar, unless it's cellulose. No carbs, unless it comes from cheese. Is this really cheating? Nah, no cheating. Love y'all.